Hi everybody. So the other day I made this little doodle here of a hand covered in cobwebs, and once I finished it, it sort of just gave me the idea of this ancient civilization with monstrous humanoid structures that people would inhabit. And since I've been working a lot with graphite and just making more detailed drawings in general, I thought this would be a nice idea to practice with. And since this isn't really a super serious idea, I also thought it'd be nice to do a voiceover and just talk about the process of making it. So here we go. So far, I'm just working on the outline of the drawing. It's probably the least exciting part visually, but the stage is really important for getting the proportions right. Because the more you progress on a drawing, the harder it's going to be to correct the proportions. So I just start out with simple shapes and slowly add in more details, making sure I'm okay with the size. You can kind of compare this process to chiseling. Starting out with very rough shapes and then slowly whittling down to get the image that you want. Here I'm just going over the outline with a kneaded eraser because I don't want these hard lines to appear in the final drawing because that'll just make it look less realistic. So I'm just fading them out a little bit because I still want to use them while I shade. Now it's time to start shading. I usually start with the darker areas first, and then I move on to the lighter areas, and in between that I'm kind of blending with either a paper stomp or a soft knife. And after that, I'll make the dark areas even darker, and I'll just continue that cycle until the drawing's done. So that's what you're going to see in the upcoming clips. When I'm using blending tools like the paper stomp, I have to be really careful with the amount of pressure that I apply while I'm blending because sometimes when I apply too much pressure, it can cause the opposite results, which is just making the texture look very rough. And I really want the skin to look smooth in this drawing, so I had to be especially careful with blending. Personally, I think it ended up looking a lot rougher than I wanted to, but I'll let you be the judge of that. I guess I should mention now, if you're getting anything out of this video, please consider liking or maybe even subscribing. That'd be really nice. Here I am now blending with a soft knife. In my experience, it's a lot smoother than using a paper stomp, but it's also a lot harder to be precise with the blending. So there are pros and cons to both. Right here, I'm adding in some individual hairs for the eyebrows. For this, I'm using a 0.3mm Muji mechanical pencil. You'll see in a bit that I use a 0.5mm mechanical pencil to darken the entire eyebrows, because right now they just looked a little too light. But afterwards, I go over it again with the 0.3mm. Now I'm beginning to fill in the background a little bit with this giant graphite stick. Again, I'm using small strokes because I want to be careful with the pressure that I apply to the paper. As I mentioned earlier, I like to shade in layers, which means I gradually darken some areas as I progress in the drawing, and that's what's going on here. I'm going over these portions of the drawing with a charcoal stick because I want them to be very dark. The background at this point was still feeling a little bit empty, and the drawing in general was kind of lacking depth, so I decided to add in a couple of these humanoid figures in the background to deal with that. This is basically the final stage of the drawing. The rest of the footage will just be me adding in some fine details with a mechanical pencil and some fine tip erasers. Since most of the detail was pretty much improvised, I don't really have much to say about it, so I think I'll just let the footage roll from here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and again, please consider liking and subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks.